I'm very excited today. I've got the legendary Scottie Mayfield of Mayfield Dairy. And if you've been anywhere and drunk a glass of milk, you know that Mayfield's milk is the best there is. And I'm going to really enjoy this discussion. So, Scottie, I thought it would be fitting that we drunk some Mayfield Dairy Farms whole milk vitamin D.
Well, it's good.
Did you drink D or did you drink the 2%?
Actually, I drink our 1% Nurture. It's got 2 probiotics in it, Lactobacillus acidophilus and Bifidobacterium, and they are still viable. The lactobacillus in our small intestines and the bifido in our large intestines, and our intestines and our skin are all a part of our immune system, and so it helps keep that balanced and happy. And
Does it taste any different?
because of the bacteria that's in it, it gives it a little bit of a mouthfeel, so the 1% actually tastes about like 2%. I mean, this is whole milk, so this is the best of the best.
I like this.
I have people that will tell me that they go on vacation and, oh, I went to this farm and I drank some milk, just from, whole milk from a cow.
Yeah.
It was so good. I said, what are you drinking at home? I said, they sell skim milk. I said, well, if you go to the store and buy some
right.
whole milk, you'll be pretty happy about it.
On the Courthouse Square at 30 2nd Street is the law firm of Logan Thompson Law. Since 1965, they have served the legal needs for the good citizens of Cleveland-Bradley County. If you've got a problem, they're no problem. Give them a call.
I don't know why people would drink skim milk when they could drink whole milk.
Well, we got talked into that fat was bad.
I don't believe that.
Well, you're correct. I mean, it's not bad.
No.
I mean, there's some fats that we have created that are not good for us, but natural fats are not the culprit. And what happened as a food industry, when somebody convinced the world that fat was bad, the food industry took it out and they replaced it with sugar. Mm-hmm. And sugar's a lot worse than fat.
A lot of work. If you eat some sugar, I feel lethargic and bloated.
Right.
But if I drink a glass of milk, I feel calm and full.
It's good stuff. I mean, it really is good.
You know what I do in the mornings? I'm probably the only one in the world that does this, but I put, instead of eating breakfast, I put a scoop of oatmeal, uncooked, in a glass and put a little handful of raisins in it, throw some cinnamon on it, and pour about 20 ounces of whole milk. And I'm good till lunch.
Well, I take some oatmeal and pour hot water on it, let it sit. I usually go to the Y and I come back. Mm-hmm. And then I pour some heavy cream on it, not a lot, about 2 tablespoons, and microwave it and sprinkle some, a little bit of cinnamon and sugar mix like you put on toast, not a lot, a little bit. And then my wife has canned blueberries.
Oh, I love blueberries.
And I'll get some of those canned blueberries and put them on it. And that's my breakfast, and it's really good.
So sometimes I do blueberry. I have done blackberries and raspberries,
Right.
but if you have raisins, you always got raisins, and they don't have to worry about them keeping because they're.
Right. Well, we've got plenty of blueberries because my wife canned a bunch of them. So
Blueberries are a fall fruit, right? Don't they come out about this time?
no, they're usually June, July, depending on the bush, but they're usually June, July. So
Does she
harvest.
So she plants specifically blueberry bushes?
We have some. We lost them last year. We got some coming. We're going to replant them, but something got in. I don't know what happened. I don't know if we put some bad mulch around them or whatever. But we lost about. We probably had about 20, and we lost them, and so we're going to start over. So.
Does she pick each blueberry off? I
Well,
guess
we
that's
do.
a lot of work.
I mean, I'll go pick them. I'll pick them. She cans them. So.
Canning's an art. You can mess
It
that
is.
up.
It is an art, but it's. I mean, she was a kind of a city girl, and when she first, my grandmother Shadow taught her how to can, and when she first started, when we were first married, and she was canning, her mother just panicked because back then, or her mother remembers some of the canning didn't have the safety valve on it and didn't have as good, and they had explosions and problems. And so she was all worried about her. But if you watch what you're doing and you get it up to about 10 pounds and watch it for about, I think it's 15 minutes. I mean, I think she canned, 60 cans of green beans this year.
Golly.
And she canned, we froze corn. We cut it off the cob and froze it. Some of it we froze on the cob, and it wasn't too bad. And then we shelled some peas that we had.
You freeze any okra?
We take okra and tomatoes and onions and make a stew, and then we freeze that.
What do they call that? A stew starter? I think that's what the old timers used to call it, a stew starter. Yeah. Well, that's good, isn't it? With some salt.
I think it's great. Yeah.
I like my soup like that with a little too much salt. Real salty.
Well, she doesn't add a lot of salt, but you can always add salt.
What about homegrown tomatoes?
We do tomatoes, yeah.
Well, you can't beat
And
a homegrown.
she'll can a lot of tomatoes and then bring them back out to make soup.
Yeah.
Her best soup is she makes a chicken vegetable soup, carrots, potatoes, celery, and chicken. And she'll cook a whole chicken and sit it over and let it cool off a little bit, and then take that broth and put the potatoes in, cook them for a little while, and then put the carrots in, then put the celery in.
Full celery is
and when
good
it's
in
all
soups.
good, then she'll put the chicken, she'll debone it and take a pair of scissors and cut it up. And if you're sick, it'll get you well. I'm sure that's not scientific, but it sure is good.
It'll work.
Yeah, and she likes to serve it over rice. She's big on rice.
Just regular white rice.
Yeah.
My grandmother used to make it, or not, she would make it with, I don't think she put chicken in it, but she would put spaghetti in it. She said it made it go further.
Well, that would do it. Yeah, sure.
But nowadays, to me, that's really something. Speaking of grandmothers, my grandmother here, she wrote some poems. She was a pretty good poet, and she grew up on a dairy farm.
Oh, cool.
And I want to give you this.
All right.
But
I'll read it. I've just finished the book, so I need another one to read.
It's light reading. She was a dairy farmer. I guess Mayfield Milk came by and picked it up. I guess.
Probably so. Yeah.
I mean, if it was on Bates Pike in Cleveland,
I would not. That would not surprise me. The only thing that I never did that I wish I had done when I was growing up and working different jobs at Mayfield is I never wrote all of our routes to pick up the milk. And I think that would have been very interesting and informative to know where all of it came. And it's funny, we have so many fewer dairy farms than we used to have, but we got the same amount of cows.
Now that's interesting.
So the dairy farmers that are left are bigger. So many of them are going to these robotic milkers, which are really, they're really fabulous because they let the cows milk themselves sometimes 3, sometimes 4 times a day.
However much they want, I guess.
Right. And the other thing is the worst thing you can do to a cow, as far as her udder, is when she quits giving milk, is to leave that milker still on her udder. And these robotic machines can sense that, and they take it off as soon as the milk quits coming out of the cow. But to be able to milk 3 times a day, I mean, we always knew that milking cows 3 times a day would produce more milk. It's better for the cow, but it was just labor-wise, it was hard to do. But with these robots, they do it easily.
You know, it brings a question up. You know that I always talk about a 3-legged milking stool.
Right.
Why do they always have 3 legs, wonder? A milking stool. If
it's uneven ground that you're on, 3 legs always become some stability. But
like a tripod.
We used to have a milker, and it was funny. You would strap it on, and it had a seat, and it had a shaft and a spring. So it had just one shaft and a spring.
So it would level you up, I guess.
But you just sit on it. I mean, you wore it. And so but that is, I mean, it's been a long time since we've gone from cow to cow to cow milking. Probably in the 60s, we built a milking parlor that had a pit. So when you're standing up, you're at the height of the cow's udder.
Like an oil changing machine, I guess.
Pretty much. And you'd have a cows on one side and cows on the other side. These cows you would be washing and preparing, and these cows would be milking. Then when you take the milkers off, you'd you'd rinse them and put them on these cows. And you would, there was a dip in their teats and finishing them up and let them go, and they'd go eat some hay or silage or whatever they had out for them.
Now your grandfather, B.F. Mayfield, is that right?
No, now that you said that, Bryant Mayfield was my grandfather, and his sons were Thomas and my 2 aunts, Sally and Imogene, and Scott had 4 children. And T.B. Mayfield is what we always knew him as. I didn't know him. He passed away when my father was 12 and my uncle was 18. And business was very small. It was mostly ice cream then, and they hired a fellow by the name of Tom Harrison to run the business. And then World War II comes along, and they both served in the Navy. And after the war, it was like, okay, what are we going to do now? Well, let's do this milk business and ice cream business, and that was really the big beginning, because those 2 guys were the ones that really grew it and made it big. I mean, my grandfather, his first dairy, of course, he's milking by hand, bottling the milk, and he had a little building with a concrete trough in it, and he had a water ram and a spring that pumped water through this concrete trough, and he could sit a milk can in it, 10-gallon milk can, or a quart, or a pint. It was stair-stepped. So he could sit that in there, and the water would be up to here. And this milk, when you got it out of the refrigerator, it was probably 38 degrees, and spring water's just 56. So that's what they had. I mean,
that was cool enough, to keep it.
Well, they would keep it for 3 or 4 days, but not much longer than that.
But where did he get the idea? Hey, let's go to these other. But I mean, when he was making ice cream, did he call it Mayfield ice cream in the beginning?
Yeah, it was. The farm was originally Live Oak Farms, and then when he built a milk plant in Athens, Tennessee, in 1922, so he could pasteurize milk. But the main reason he built that plant was so that he could separate the milk into cream and skim. Up until that time, he was just selling the milk that came out of the cows.
Just he tried
to
neighbors or something?
No, he sold it. He had enough cows. They had routes and what have you. And
he was delivering milk.
Yeah, he was delivering milk.
Like on Andy Griffith.
That's right. And then he started making ice cream, and my grandmother, she spoke at Kiwanis one time, and I recorded it, and then I had it typed up, but she told all these stories about all the different things that he had tried as a farmer. And one of the funniest ones, she said one year he decided he was going to have some, fatten up some heifers. So he got some feeder calves in there and he fattened them up all the year and then he shipped them back off. And she said when we got the check back for what we had sold them for, we figured that we had made the manure that they had left behind. And everybody laughs, but she was dead serious. But when he made ice cream, what's crazy is he had a freezer and he was making batch ice cream in a metal can. I still got one of those metal cans, and we use it as an umbrella holder, but it's got Mayfield Creamery. And when he built that new plant, he called it Mayfield Creamery. And but he would make that ice cream and pack it in ice and salt for a week before he would serve it. I mean, it was really homemade ice cream, and it was soft serving.
So he would do the crank and.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I think he had a mechanical machine,
Yeah,
but still,
the principle.
It was a principle. And he, so it was 4th of July, and he went to sell the ice cream, and he came home early that afternoon. And my grandmother said, I thought something was wrong. It was home so early, but he had sold out of ice cream, and she said we stayed up till I don't know how late, counting the pennies and nickels and dimes that he collected. She said that's the first time he'd ever really made any money farming, you know. And so that was
that was making
deal.
Ice cream.
Yeah, yeah.
was-
and see, when their father died and after the war, when they started the business back, it was probably 80% ice cream and 20% milk. And Tom, my uncle, went to the big dairy show in Atlantic City with the plans of buying new ice cream equipment. And he came home and he said, everybody there, every big dairy in America is building a new ice cream plant. We need to build a new milk plant. And so that's when we built the plant that opened in 1955 in Athens, right there where we are now. And because it was so modern, our milk had a longer life. It was just really clean, and we did a good job with the plant. And so our code life would last longer than other brands. And it seemed like every spring when it warmed up and the milk had to go through the store to home and everything, our milk just made it through that better. And we'd have a 25% increase in sales. It seems like every year for a number of years.
Because if you're a grocery store owner, you don't want you keep throwing this milk out, right? Or
Well,
people bring it
they're
back.
not the ones that throw it out. It goes bad at the consumer.
Oh,
It's the consumer. And the consumer, if you give the consumer a bad product, they'll give you another chance. But they won't give you many. So if you go and you pay your hard-earned money for milk and you get it home and it spoils on you, you're going to find another brand. And we benefited from that because our milk did not spoil as quickly as some of our competitors.
And you think it was because of the modern machines at that
no
time?
question. And we had, it's all about temperature and cleanliness. If you have a clean facility and a clean plant, clean equipment, and you keep the milk really cold, it's just going to last a long time.
Pasteurization extended that, right? Or
Well,
originally?
Not so much. I mean, pasteurization is really about killing the germs if the cow had a cold. That's really all it is.
And it really is just what? Heating it up, letting it cool down is about basically what it
Heat
is?
it up. These days, well, I think we eat it to about, I think it's like 170 or something, and hold it for 22 seconds. I don't remember the exact numbers, but we heat ours a little hotter and then keep it a little longer. It gives it actually a little cook flavor. But that's killing the germs. It's not sterilizing it. It'll still spoil, but it's killing the germs if the cow had any kind of a situation.
So the pasteurization is not necessarily what makes it last longer.
It's more of the refrigeration.
I see.
think. I mean, that's keeping it cold is the key.
You know, when you were scheduled to come here last time and Gwen had his knee surgery, I bought some milk, put it in the refrigerator, and I forgot about it. And it was about 2 days old. I drank it anyway. It didn't hurt me a bit.
Well, it should last probably 7 days past the date that's stamped on it. It all depends on how well it's been kept cold.
If I'd known that, I wouldn't give that other one to the cat. Boy, cats love milk, don't they?
Well, yeah, don't blame them. Yeah.
Now, where do you think your grandfather got the idea? Because homemade ice cream is a more thinner, soft serve, whereas Mayfield's is thicker and creamier.
Well, I mean, when you make homemade ice cream like he did in the early 20s and 30s, the equipment you had to make it was not much different than making it at home. I mean, basically, you've got a cylinder and you've got ice and salt, and the salt makes the ice super cold, okay? And so that mix that you put in there freezes to the wall of that container. And then you've got dashers, we call them, some people call them knives. And when you crank it, basically what it's doing is it's scraping that frozen ice cream mix off, and really it's whipping air into it. And we have a term we call overrun, which is if you take a gallon of mix and you make 2 gallons of ice cream, that's 100% overrun. So you've added as much air as you had mix. And you can't, and you can have 100% overrun ice cream and that's still legally ice cream. But it's not as creamy as you'd like it to be. So our overrun ranges from probably the highest is around 85% and the lowest is around 65, depending on which product and what we're doing. But you've got to put the ingredients in there. You've got to get, we have an advantage because we're in the milk business and we have fresh cream. Our cream comes from across the room. I mean, we're just coming off of the separator straight into a cream tank that's refrigerated, and we're making ice cream out of it the next day. So that really gives us a little bit of an advantage. I tell people the best 2 flavors of ice cream that we make are vanilla and chocolate. And I say that because once you can do that, you can make anything else.
Yeah,
Because all you got to do is add strawberries or add a flavor or add pecans or add
Oreos.
That's right. And so anybody can make really good ice cream. You just got to try to do it. I mean, you got to put the ingredients in there.
Well, you can't make homemade ice cream that good. It's just you can't get it thick enough.
No, it's homemade ice cream is more. But I got to tell you, we cannot make as good a peach ice cream as you can at home.
Peaches are different for some reason.
Well, the other part of it is homemade ice cream is never frozen hard. Okay, so when we make ice cream and we put it in the carton, it's 22 degrees. And it's like soft serve, like if you got a soft serve cone. Then we harden it like a brick. And we try to do that really fast. We have special freezers that take the ice cream from plus 22 degrees to minus 20 degrees in about an hour and a half. And the reason we do that, the faster you harden ice cream, the smaller the ice crystals the smoother the texture. Now the creaminess, that's all about having enough cream in there and solids and all the ingredients that you need to have to make it a really good mix. But if you make homemade ice cream, it never gets hardened. I mean, you could save it and put it in your freezer. You could put it in your own freezer. But your own freezer's not made to freeze it that hard, that quick, and so you're going to have all kinds of big ice crystals. Sometimes if you dip it at home and it thaws out and you put it back in there, you get those ice crystals.
It's just no good that way.
The best thing I tell people they need to do, when you take that top seal, don't throw it away. Lay it down, dip all the ice cream for everybody's having ice cream, then take that and press it back down on the top of the ice cream, and it'll make it last longer. You won't have any ice crystals.
Well, at our house, we just eat the whole thing.
Well, we've gotten to where we have ice cream.
And they're only that big.
We have ice cream probably not every night, but a lot. And I've gotten to where I buy ice cream, those little cake cones. They're not but about that big
Oh, I
around.
like it, yeah.
So you can't get a whole lot in there. And with a
Oh, you're talking about at home, the cake cones.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the ones that you buy that have the little cups.
no,
Your
that, well,
little
like a
wooden
Nutty
spoon,
Buddy.
yeah.
I mean, you can, but we buy ice cream cones to dip our ice cream into. If you have a saucer,
Yeah.
you can cram it down in
Oh,
there
yeah.
and put too much in it. With a cake cone, you can't do that; it'll crumble on you. So that's how we control how much we eat.
Do you think people back in after the war, they're different? Did they have different flavors of ice cream
No.
than we have now, or was it less flavors?
Oh, much less. Well, back then you had vanilla chocolate, and if you wanted something really exotic, you'd have strawberry.
Or Neapolitan? Remember when
We had
Neapolitan came out?
right? And then we would have butter pecan was one of the first big flavors. And it's funny, we had a flavor and still have it today of vanilla and chocolate. And our Neapolitan is kind of funny because the vanilla is in the middle. No, it's the chocolate's in the middle, I guess, because we had vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry. And when we do the vanilla chocolate, we just take the strawberry out and put it in beside it.
What? That's an odd name, Neapolitan. Was that the name that it had, or was that something y'all named it?
That's a national.
That's an old name?
Yeah, I guess. We
Neapolitan?
have to research that. I never have thought about where that came from, but it is a weird name.
It's an odd name.
Yeah.
Should be like Rainbow or something.
I don't know. Neapolitan.
But butter pecan is good. What would be your favorite if you had to be stuck on an island?
I'd probably eat vanilla. It's our number one seller. It's close to almost 30% everything we do. Now we've got about 4 vanillas, but if you add them together, it's way far ahead of our second best sellers. It's 1 or 3 flavors. It's either Moose Tracks, chocolate, or butter pecan. But vanilla's king. I like it. I really like the flavor. We've got the snow cream, which is it's just like what we used to have as kids. It's not really ice cream. I mean, we make it out of our homemade ice cream vanilla mix and our popsicle mix. So it's really like snow cream, especially it's icy and everything. But if you scrape it out and get it in a bowl, you can't put it in a cone. It won't work. But if you microwave it for like 20 seconds and make it a slush, it's just like what Mama used to make for us. Yeah, but vanilla, I think vanilla is not always consumed by vanilla by itself.
You think that's where they add other things to it?
Sure, chocolate and fruit. I mean, I have people say, I had a guy that wanted us to make cantaloupe and vanilla ice cream.
I've had that before.
But
But
if we made that and we froze it really hard, that cantaloupe would turn into ice cube. And so there's just certain flavors that, especially fruit flavors, it's better to take vanilla ice cream and fresh fruit, and that's the best way I think to go.
Well, chocolate devil's food cake with Mayfield's vanilla ice cream is really good, isn't it?
And a little milk to
Little
go
milk,
in.
yeah. Now Mayfield's milk now do y'all do some ice cream in Alabama?
We sell ice cream all over the South.
Any packaging in Alabama or?
Oh yeah,
Where
Birmingham.
Birmingham.
We, of course, we actually sold to Dean Foods in 1990. We're now owned by Dairy Farmers of America, and they're just been a great group to own us, and it's been wonderful. They know a lot about the industry, and they're cow people, and they're just good folks. But back as we were coming along, when we were a part of Dean Foods, they bought the Barber plant in Birmingham.
Oh.
And they had an ice cream plant there, but they were doing most of what they were doing there really was for Baskin Robbins. And we today, I think this is correct. I think we make I think most of it's made in Birmingham, but we make most of Baskin-Robbins ice cream. Now, we make it to their specifications.
Yeah.
And our people in Athens were real nervous about making Mayfield ice cream anywhere else. And the fact that they made Baskin-Robbins gave our people in Athens a little bit more confidence because they could, they could make what we make here. Now, we had to make some changes to their plant because when we make a mix and we go to pasteurize that mix, we heat it up to that 80 degrees, 70, whatever it is. And instead of holding it for 22 seconds, we've got a holding tube that goes up and back our warehouse. And that hot mix is in there for 6 minutes. And that's like cooking it. That's like cooking a custard. Mm-hmm. And then we save that mix. We don't freeze that mix for 24 hours. It's just something about it, just aging it for one day just makes it better. And but we had to install some of that equipment in Birmingham so that we could get our mix, make our ice cream mix in Birmingham the same way we make our ice cream mix in Athens.
Are you proud of the fact that you're still in Athens and you were born and raised there? I'm sure you are, but.
Well, I don't know if I'm proud of it. I'm very happy to be where I am and live on the farm, and I'm happy that my son Michael has took an interest in the farm, and he's tried to do different things. He wasn't really interested in cows necessarily. When he came along, he grew some vegetables and he's done different things. But now he's into agritourism, and so he's maintaining the farm really, really well.
Agritourism, I hadn't heard of that term.
Well, he has a corn maze and a pumpkin patch, and that's what people call it, agritourism.
I see.
When people come to the farm as guests, if you will, as an entertainment. And he's got a great product. Families come there and they'll spend sometimes 4 hours and maybe not even go into the corn maze. Mm-hmm. There's just so many different activities. He's got pig races.
What is it about being on a farm that gives you a peaceful feeling? Do you know what it is? It's different than being in the woods.
I don't know. First thing is you can see around. Mm-hmm. It usually smells pretty good, I think. When we had cows, sometimes there was a manure smell that people didn't care for, I guess, but we don't have that.
In the woods, you're watching where you're going. You're focused on.
I don't know. He has got a lot of activities, and they're not all agriculturally oriented, but people like going on a hayride, and people like going and picking their pumpkin out. And
I bet there's a lot of stuff that they used to do back in the day that was similar to what he's doing, but that we hadn't even heard of, maybe.
Well, and there are some farms, we're not doing this, but I've heard of places where people could go and stay and work on the farm, drive a tractor or do whatever it is they need done. But you ask if I was proud. I'm glad that we've been farming that land for over 200 years. Our family came from South Carolina in 1820. And
what did they do in South Carolina?
I have no idea, but when they came here, they were farmers. Do
you have anything on the farm that dates back that long?
Well, I made 2 tables out of the front door and the back door of the original Mayfield log cabin, and the tabletop is the heart pine wood that had been painted white, and then over the years turned gray. And
heart pine doesn't do nothing but just sit there.
It hangs in there pretty good. Yeah, it's good stuff. And so I have that.
So would that tabletop have been back in 1850 or 1830?
1820s. I had a cousin that somehow found somebody had moved the original log cabin, and they found those logs, and they were going to do something with it, and then they didn't, and they called me, and I purchased the logs from them. But when I moved the logs, I discovered, to my regret, if you will, that they had not been sheltered very well, and so they were, most of them had decayed, and they were not useful. We ended up building a little bitty log building just to have, preserve them. And then I had those two doors that I just kind of.
What the doors look like?
Well, they had locks, big key locks in them.
Have a Z-bar or what?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, no, they're just straight. I guess on the bottom,
the slats glued together, maybe?
No, they're just put together. I mean, maybe they are glued because when I sanded them off, so there was still some white paint, still a little bit of the old gray, and a little bit of the heart pine showing through, and then I put a finish on them. They made great tabletops. One of them I had to cut off because it was probably 4 feet wide, and I didn't need but about a 40-inch wide.
Well, I mean, it's heavy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good stuff, and it stays straight.
You ever put any of that waka oil on it, they call it?
I've got some Wacko oil.
Wacko oil, yeah.
And it's a good penetrating oil. When I make a piece of furniture, I typically, if I want to make something really nice, I use a varnish called Waterlock. And then once I put 3 or 4 coats of that on there, I put some Johnson's Paste Wax, which they have quit making. I can't believe it. I went to a store the other day and said, I want some Johnson's Paste Wax. And they said, well, we don't carry it anymore. And I thought, that doesn't make sense. And I went online and they've quit making it. So I'll have to find another oil.
Is that one of your pastimes? Furniture, old furniture?
Oh, that's what I love. Well, I mean, I don't care. I love woodworking. I mean, this sounds weird, but I was making a mushroom before I came here.
A mushroom, you mean like a flat?
I take a piece of wood on a lathe and turn it to where there's a top and a stem and a base. And then I turn more pieces where I've got a top and just a stem. And I actually put them in a little thing to where I can bend them. And then when they're dry, I'll have the one, and then I'll put 2 or 3 more. So it's a cluster of mushrooms. They're cool looking, I think. And my wife's got a shop, White Street Market in Athens, and
now that's different than wood carving, right?
Oh yeah,
my uncle was a wood carver.
No, this is on a lathe, and for every 6 mushrooms I make, 2 of them will blow up. Because the top, you're trying to get it really, really, really. I mean, you want it to be a 1/16 of an inch or thin, and if it's green wood, if you get it real thin, when it dries, it kind of curves.
Yeah.
And it does,
which really could look good, right?
It looks great.
You cool. Paint any of them like reds and yellows?
No, I leave them natural. I finish them with a finish. I usually spray them with lacquer because it's so easy. But yeah, they're fun to do. I do that, and I make Christmas trees.
Can you get into the shop and just get lost and just really into the zone?
Every day.
What do you listen to music while you're there?
It's funny. Most of the time, I'm listening to a book. I've got Libby Library on my phone, and that's an app. And if you plug into Libby Library your local library card number, then you can go on there and you can get audio books on tape, I call them. And when I play it, it goes to my hearing aids. And I put earmuffs over that to cover up the machine noise, and so I listen to books.
You're in the zone, aren't you?
Yeah.
You ever have to go back and rewind and say, I lost my place or something.
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes I do that.
Yeah.
I think, God, I forgot.
You get to focusing
Yeah.
on what you're doing and not listening. And
So Libby Library is just like the old libraries were, where you have your Dewey Decimal thing and your card, but boy, that's a good idea. Isn't
It's
it?
great.
Why didn't we think of that?
You go on there and you can search by author. You can, if you know the name of the book. I've been listening to Tom Clancy and
I like Tom Clancy.
oh my Lord, you kind of hope none of that stuff's real, but you kind of afraid some of it might be. But anyway, that's what and I'll listen to music sometimes. My favorite music channel is Chris Christopherson.
Boy, do you remember? You ever see when he played that Sunday morning coming down, when it was just him and the guitar and no other instrument? Boy, that's a masterpiece.
He's good. I've told my wife when I die, I want him to play "Why Me, Lord." He wrote that
I
song.
did that one.
That's a good song.
Chris Christopherson, boy, he is really good. He had that one song with
Rita Coolidge sang with him.
No, Willie Nelson. Was it Waylon
Waylon
Jennings and Chris Christopherson, and there was one more. Might have been Johnny Cash.
Might have been. I know he does a lot with Waylon and Willie.
Well, yeah. Are you a country western fan, music wise?
I guess not. I mean, I like popular music, rock and roll, the old rock and roll music and stuff like that. But I mean, if I'm listening to, if I go to Pandora, there it is. That's
It was the Eagles, wasn't it?
that's way away. But see, on this, I got to turn that off because it's singing to me. So, but Chris Christopherson is, he has a lot. I mean, he even has a few Eagles songs on his station. I'm sure he's picked who and what songs and all that kind of stuff. And he's written a lot of them. I mean, he's written songs that Dolly Parton sang, and of course, she's written more songs than anybody, I guess. But I guess I like old country more than I do some of this newer country.
Yeah, I think that's more of a country western rather than just country music.
Yeah.
So when you're in the shop, how big's your shop?
Well, it's huge for a hobby. It's 25 feet wide and 50 feet long. It's our old bull barn. And when we had it redone, I mean, it had 7-foot ceilings and dirt floors. So and posts, and we were able to go in there and put a new rafter, not rafter, but I guess that is rafter, across, left the top, but just raised the ceiling up. It's about 8.5 foot ceiling.
So kind of a cathedral.
Well, it's flat, and of course, it's still got the barn shape on top of it. But once we did that, we spanned the whole thing. We knocked all the posts out because it had 2 rows of posts in it, and put a concrete floor in it. And I've got some of those squares that you hook together to cushion the floor.
Yeah. Well, you about need that, don't you? That concrete floor wear you out.
And I mean, I just love it. And I've got.
You have a heat in there?
I have a fireplace in one end, and I have one of these little radiator-looking things you plug in. That's the only heat I've got. But I mean, even if it gets down to, usually I can keep it 55 or 60 degrees pretty easy.
I'm okay at that if I'm working.
And
That's
then
about
I'll
the
go in
ideal.
there and I'll start the fireplace, and I can get it up a little bit warmer.
Because you've got scrap wood everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Where do you get a lot of your wood from Chattanooga? Like what's that place?
I get most of my wood off the farm from trees that are falling. I've got a wood miser sawmill, so I saw a lot of lumber, and I've had tree trimmers that we would allow them to dump their some of them would dump their shreddings, but what they really like to dump is the branches that they don't shred that
Yeah,
are
just in the way.
semi-firewood, if you will. But they're, there's no telling what kind of wood it is. And I had this one guy that came there and he dumped everything there, and he would bring some logs, because if a tree trimmer cuts a tree out of somebody's yard, no sawmill will touch it. I mean, my saw blades cost $27. A regular sawmill's blade may be $500. And so there's too big of a chance that something's in that tree. It might be an old hammock hook. It could be
Barbed wire. I'm
yeah,
sure.
anything. And so sawmills just won't.
They don't have time to. You can look at it and say, "Oh, this
they
is
can't-
good."
Well, I mean, I can hit it and dull a blade, and it's $27.
Yeah.
It's maybe cost me $9 to sharpen the blade. If it ruins the blade, it's just $27. But theirs is $500, and they're shut down for a while, and they can't risk it. So he would bring me. I've had a lot that way, and then we've got a pretty good sized farm, and so occasionally trees fall, and you bring them over and saw them up. And,
Where did you get your interest in doing woodwork?
oh, I don't know. I'm kind of one of these people that needs to be doing things, and a lot of times with my hands. And I mean, I started making picture frames out of barn wood. Had a little bitty tabletop 10-inch wood saw, saw, and a miter box, a manual miter box, and a router table. I saved that old Sears metal router table just because that's what I started with. And
You have a drill press,
I have a drill press, yeah.
planer.
I've got a planer. I've got 2 planers.
Well, you got to be careful out there. You can cut your fingers off and nobody will know it.
I've lost a few,
God, let me see.
and I've got it.
But one thing about it, you can't cut the end of that no more.
No, I've got a table saw now that I can't cut myself with. It'll stop.
Yeah, I wouldn't test it.
It'll stop. 5/1000ths of a second.
Does it have like a laser beam or something?
No, it has got a microcomputer in it, and it senses the electrolysis of whatever it's sawing. For example, you cannot saw pressure-treated pine that you buy at the store. You can't saw it without turning that sensitive thing
Oh, because
off.
it's got the moisture, so much moisture in it.
It thinks it's you.
Oh,
And
because
I've-
pressure-treated wood will actually leak as you cut it.
Right.
It's got so much
Oh,
water
yeah.
in it.
But and it doesn't like even wet wood if it's real green. But I don't.
But you don't. Now, do you ever wonder about if you're working on something like that? That's like driving these cars that have this lane switching and backup sensors, and you get in another car that doesn't have that. Maybe you get careless, and that could happen with the saw.
Well, this injury was late in the day, being stupid. When I don't know. I don't think so. I mean,
Did that hurt, or just
yeah.
scary?
when I did that and I looked at my hand, I had fingernails. It looked fine. It looked fine. And when I got to the hospital, they said, we can sew that up and it'll look fine, but it's just going to flop around because you when I split it, he said, you knocked the bone out of it. So I had to.
Did you go to Athens Hospital?
Yeah.
Emergency room?
Sure. I said, well, just fix it where it'll work. So they did.
Well, it works. I didn't notice till you said anything.
Yeah.
It could have been worse.
It could have been better. So I've been-
Boy.
Anyway, I
You
mean,
ever make
you
any
gotta be
wooden,
careful.
anything like a wooden briefcases or anything? Remember when people used to make wooden briefcases? They'd slick them up real good.
I made a thing to hold ashes for somebody, and then they felt like it wasn't big enough, so it's still in my shop. I've made some boxes, some toys I've made some dice games that I have given people. I make some charcuterie boards that my wife sells in the shop, you know, those fancy. But I mean, you get a piece of wood that's, you know, maybe not very big, but it's got this beautiful pattern to it.
Oh, yeah.
And so I sand it down. I sand it down to like 500 with grit and then put mineral oil on it. And sometimes I put handles, sometimes not. I've made tables. I've made...
You do the dovetail and all that stuff?
Sometimes, yeah. I've done for myself and each of my 3 kids a blanket chest with the hand dovetails on it, and I've made some fairly nice stuff.
So where did you say her shop was?
Her shop is on White Street, and it's called White Street Market.
Which is, let's see, I get...
It's pretty much, if you come into Athens, and instead of staying on the 4-lane, you go to the courthouse, it's on that road. That's White Street.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And you go by the Athens Art Center, and then you got Napa Auto Parts, and then you got a dental facility that's part of Tennessee Wesleyan University, and then White Street's next.
Didn't they have a flood here a while back, or a fire? What was that? Maybe I say it.
We had a fire downtown on the other side of the courthouse
6 years ago or 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was Logan's.
Jimmy Logan.
Yeah, it's his building, and
whatever they did with that, they tear it down.
Yeah, it's green grass now.
Yeah.
So.
It had a basement in it, didn't it? They probably filled that in.
I don't know if it did. If it did, they filled it in because it's just grass now.
You ever go down to the Midway Drive-In? You ever been there?
Sure.
How long been since you been there?
You talking about the theater or the new drive-in eat place?
I didn't know there was a new. I thought about the one between Etowah and Athens.
So
Midway.
The Midway Drive-In Theater.
Uh-huh.
I've been there, but it's probably been 20 or 30 years. I mean, daylight savings time did them a bad favor because it gets dark so late in the summertime. When you'd like to go there, it's not as attractive. But we have a new Midway Drive-In restaurant.
I never heard of that.
Well, it's brand new.
So what do you do? Just drive in and
It's just like going to
like a Sonic or something?
Yeah. You can go up to the window and order, or you can drive through.
Well, that's something coming back that used to be around and
they
went away, and now it's coming.
I think they may call it Midway Milkshake because they've got really good. They've got food, of course, but they've got great milkshakes.
That's coming from a guy that knows milkshakes, right?
Yeah, well, they buy the best mix we offer.
Now, is Maggie the name of the cow?
That's the nickname of our big cows that we go around. We used to just have one. We have more than one now, but when we had that one, we had a contest in Athens to name the cow. And we had a student from Tennessee Wesleyan win the contest, and she named the cow Maggie the Magnificent Mayfield Milk-Making Machine. So we thought, well, we got to go with that.
But Maggie for short.
Yeah. She's good, and our visitor center is still, we like everybody, we got a curveball during COVID, but we're back at it now, and so that's a good, fun place to go.
Did the yellow milk jugs extend it even longer, the shelf life?
It doesn't have anything to do with bacteria. It has to do with flavor.
Is that right?
Yeah, and what happens, I've done a lot of taste tests. I had a focus group in Atlanta. I was afraid to have one in Athens because people are too prejudiced, But I had one in Atlanta, and we would take 2 gallons of Mayfield milk. We would pour one of those into a clear jug, and the girls would put them in the shade outside for 15 minutes and then back in the refrigerator. And then we would have blind taste tests 4 days later. And I've done it, I don't know, probably 250 more people. And what I learned was that 25% of the population just can't taste that flavor. I don't know if they have that, if they can't taste anything, but they can't, because it's a cardboardy flavor. It's not a spoiled flavor. It's not that clean, crisp flavor that we just had.
Yeah.
And but so they can't taste it. So if you take them out and you take the other 75% and you ask them to score it on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being great and 0 being spit it out, the yellow jug will average 7.6 and the clear jug will average 4.6. That's the difference. And you've got to have sugar in it to get over 8. I mean, it's got to be chocolate milk or it's got to be ice cream or something like that.
Yeah.
And so it's more of a flavor thing. And what a lot of people don't realize is if it tastes cardboardy, you've lost a lot of the vitamins because the light hurts the vitamins. And there's some new research. It's not that new. It's probably 3 or 4 years old out of Cornell University who has been about this light all along. And the new LED lights are more harmful than fluorescent. We put it outside in the indirect sunlight because we found out that indirect sunlight was harder on milk than fluorescent lights.
Well, I know fluorescent lights make me look better.
Yeah, there.
What about the dent in the side of the jug?
The logo? Or
Yeah, and the logo's indented. Is there any reason for that?
just the way it's made.
Not
it's a little
anything.
bit of a structural
Yeah.
situation, but it's also that indention is a part of, when we make a jug, that jug needs to hold exactly 1 gallon of milk.
Yeah.
And if it holds less than that, we're cheating people. If it holds more than that, we're giving away milk. So that insert is what we use to help adjust the volume in that jug. And there's some other things. There's an annealing unit, which it goes through. It's kind of a pre-curing, or you cure the jug unit. It's a little bit over my head. But anyway, their goal is to make a jug that holds exactly 1 gallon of milk.
Mm. I knew it had to have some significance.
Yeah, it can be changed slightly to change the amount of volume that goes into that container.
Did you go to school in Chattanooga?
I went to Baylor in Chattanooga in high school. My dad had gone there. When his dad passed away, they kind of shipped him out to go down there because I think he was a little bit of a heck raiser. And so he loved it. He absolutely loved it. So I went there.
Isn't that where that guy from Leave It to Beaver, the dad, didn't Ward Cleaver go there?
I don't know about
I believe
that.
he did. I saw that on the internet.
I don't know. Not when I was there.
He might have been there when your dad was there.
My grandson, we had Aaron Smith. Have you ever heard Aaron Smith speak?
Who's that?
He is a retired baseball player, lives in Loudon. He is one of 4 pitchers that had a 10-0 season, and it was in his last year. He was 33 years old, and he's got a great Christian message. I mean, he's just a powerful speaker, and we had him the other last Wednesday night at church and had a spaghetti dinner, and my grandson, Willis, went up to him and said, "Did you play with Babe Ruth?" So I'm sure that Aaron will be telling that as a part of his speech from now on, but he's got a great message. He had, like all of us, he had a lot of ups and downs in his life, and he
Well, if he's 33, he hadn't had them all yet, has he?
no, well, he's 51
Oh,
now.
okay.
Yeah, he was 33 when he had that 10-0 season with the New York Yankees. But he,
I've never heard that. We're really close to somebody that's a big deal, isn't it?
one of 4 people to ever have a 10-0 season.
Yeah, and they're just from up here at Loudon. That's
Right.
what, 45 minutes away?
His wife is from there. I can't remember where he said he was originally from, but his wife is from Loudon, and so when he got through with baseball, they moved back there. And he's got the Aaron Smith pitching barn or something. He gives lessons and stuff about pitching, but he's got a great story, and it was a good message.
Did you say your wife was not raised on a farm?
She's from Mobile, Alabama, and her father was in the fishing business. They had boats that went off the coast of Mexico and caught red snapper. And so she's more of she knows more about fishing when she came to Athens than she knew about gardening. I mean, our first garden was about the size of this room, okay? And we planted the garden, and of course we planted radishes. Well, in 2 days, the radishes are growing. She calls me at work. She says, "This garden's growing." I thought, "What did
Only problem is who likes radishes?"
Well,
right?
but anyway, she's very much enjoyed being a part of this farm life. And
Where'd you meet her at?
I went to Georgia Tech in college, and she was at a school called Massey Junior College, and Georgia Tech, when I was there, didn't have very many females, and so we actually had what we call in the fraternity house a rush girl tea, where we would invite girls over, and then we would introduce them to incoming freshmen and that kind of thing, and or we would try to make dates ourselves, and I met her at one of those. And so
you sort of invited her over.
Well, I mean, I met her there, and then one of my other fraternity brothers asked her out. It was a year before I ever asked her out. I asked her out in October. We were engaged in January and married in August.
Golly.
Boom, boom, boom. Been married 51 years.
Wonder what the secret is to staying married long.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess that's it, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a two-way street. She's been very forgiving of things that I have done, because we're all human beings.
Sure, yeah.
And I think we've been understanding of one another, and we've been committed to being together.
That's a big thing.
Plus, she's just a really nice person. I mean, she's just a good friend. She's just all the ingredients. She's a fabulous mother,
That's a big deal.
I'm
isn't it?
telling you,
Big
she's
deal.
even a more fabulous grandmother. We're keeping a grandchild right now. I'll take him. His mother had a chance to go see some of her friends this weekend, and she doesn't get back until midday tomorrow. So I'll take him. He goes to Chattanooga Christian, and we'll get up and leave early tomorrow morning, and I'll take him to school. And then my son Michael is going to some kind of I don't know, it has to do with the corn maze business. There's a show in Florida that he's going to go see, and so we're keeping his two boys, and one of them is Willis, the Babe Ruth guy, and he's very conscientious, wants to do what you say and all that kind. And the other one, he's 8. Willis is 8. James is 5, and he's just wild. He's just not afraid of anything. I mean, he's a great kid, but he's just 100% turned on all the time. I mean, he's just going.
They just are born with certain personalities
Yes,
that
they
you
are.
really can't do. You know, I got this good friend of mine. He's 93, and he's raised 5 kids. And I asked him one day, I said, what's the secret to raising good kids? And he said, well, I tell you what, I've got 5, and I raised them all the same, and I got 4 of the best kids you could ever ask for. So in other words, there's not a whole lot we do.
Well, there's certain things you do, and they either pay attention or they don't. And they have other influences in their lives, but they start out different. I mean, right out of the bat.
Right out of the chute, man, they're different.
Some of them are real conscientious. Some of them are not so much.
Some are organized, some are not.
Right. We're just all unique individuals.
Do you think grandparents, like my grandmother, she died when I was 13, and I'm still reading their book.
Right.
Or 12. Do you think these grandparents had more knowledge about life than maybe you do? Because were they raised different, or do you have the knowledge that they did, but we don't realize it? What's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think people that are raised on a farm have got a really broad set of experiences that you don't get any other way. I mean, they just know how to do a lot of things. And one of those experiences and things that they know how to do is work. I mean, you can't grow up on a farm and not know how to work.
You can't live downtown Cleveland and learn to work on a farm.
No, it's just different. And so that's one of the big differences. I mean, I think if you go back to your grandmother or my grandmother and you look at the entire United States, we were more of a rural society then.
That's a good point.
And today we're, it's interesting. We have some things going on in Athens with our city government and different things. And I was at a meeting the other day and I realized, even in Athens, Tennessee, the people in the city are different than the people in the county. And then you think of a big city like New York or Chicago or whatever, they are very dependent upon the government because the transit system is government, the garbage system is government.
A lot of them work for the government.
And they have to, I mean, in a city that has to be the way, but in rural settings, not so much. I mean, we
if I build for somebody that's predominantly from the rural areas versus someone that's more predominantly in the city areas, I can tell a difference in their thinking.
Oh yeah, there is a big difference, and so I think that's the rural part of her life experience is one thing, and I don't know. I still, one of my big things, I hear people seemingly complaining about how bad things are in America, and I think they're the best they've ever been.
I don't think I'm like you. I don't think there's nothing new happening. I mean, I know there's some weird stuff going on, but back in the 60s, they thought there was weird stuff going on too, right? With the beatniks and the...
Well, we were talking, we're studying in our Sunday school class. We had a minister a number of years ago, and he wrote a book, Faith in the West Wing. And I don't know if you remember that series, The West Wing.
Yeah, The West Wing.
Well, there are tons and tons of pieces in different episodes that have a religious dialogue or what have you. And so he wrote this book. It's been very interesting, and we'll watch sections and then we'll discuss it and what have you. And we were talking about that this morning, and I still contend we're making so much progress, and people don't. And then somebody said, "Well, do you think people just don't read history?" I mean, how many teenagers, especially female teenagers today, how many of them know that 50 years ago females were not allowed to vote?
They probably don't even realize how soon ago that was.
That's right. I mean, and so we've done as a nation, we've done some terrible things. There's a PBS program about the buffaloes. Well, I mean, we tried to kill them all. Mm-hmm. And finally somebody realized that maybe we ought to salvage some of them. And so today we have some buffalo herds around and we've salvaged those. But we've done bad things, but we continue to get better at things. I mean, we used to, when George Washington, I've read his biography, when he was trying to help make us America, he had slaves. Mm-hmm. But he knew that was wrong. Mm-hmm. But he knew he couldn't put together the United States of America and have the southern states and do away with slavery. That couldn't happen at the same time. When he died, he set his slaves free, and we've made a lot of progress. And then once we got away from that, we, for a long time, treated black people not very good. And I think we're doing a better job of treating people better. Now, not everybody is doing that. There's some people out there that are, we're going through this thing with Israel and Hamas, and you've got people on both sides of that story.
Yeah,
And you've got some people that don't believe the Holocaust happened. And that's where I don't know what they're teaching in school these days, but I hope they're teaching a little bit of history so that we know what happened in the past.
I agree with you. I call it slow moving progress. Even though, you know what I'm saying, it's not.
It's battleship turning progress.
It's like this global warming and cars heating up and atmosphere and everything. But hey, we're seeing more and more electric cars. We're seeing more concerns about the footprint and I'm not sure if I go in for all of that. I don't know anybody that can measure the Earth's temperature. I mean, I don't know how they do that anyway. But I do know that all doing too much of one thing's never been good.
Well, I try my best to read a lot of things, and sometimes I'm listening to a book, a history book or whatever, and one of the books I just recently listened to was The Body. And this guy has done more research about the human body than you can imagine. And he goes into, I think the book was like 26 hours long or something. But he would talk about different things. And then he would, on many occasions, he said, but we're really not sure. And we're really not sure. And we have all these theories and ideas, and we have some pretty good evidence about a lot of the stuff. But there's still a lot of things about this planet and this universe that we just don't know.
Well, if the phrase, trust the science, that's so ridiculous because I know how many times they've been wrong, they've changed their mind, and it's not. You might argue that I trust the science, yes, but who's interpreting the science? So that because they can get confused about what they're telling me and all that stuff.
Well, the best cliche that has more truth to it than anything, unfortunately, is follow the money.
That's exactly right. That always works, doesn't it?
Yeah, if you want to know why, you can. Sometimes that's the answer, unfortunately.
I went to the doctor the other day, I didn't go to the doctor, but I'm working for this doctor, and I said, he said, I said he was back in his office, and I said, do I need to leave? Do you need to dictate some notes? How they do
right.
And he said, oh no, we do that all by audio recording now. And we run it through AI, and AI transposes it and tells us if we missed something in the exam. Now, can you believe, what if you're sitting there and the doctor says, well, you look good, your color's good, your hearing's good, your heart's good, and I'll be back in a few minutes. I'm going to check with AI, and they come back and say, I need to check your cholesterol because your fat content may. Wouldn't that be a little bit?
Well, but that just goes to show you that this AI is going to have some positive applications. It'll get abused like a lot of things, but I think it's going to help us.
And is it just going to be looking up the what Google says, and is follow the money going to say, put this in the algorithm?
Well, at some point, we all need to use our own judgment and understanding before we reach a conclusion.
if you can at all possible. But sometimes when you get these, people telling you stuff, you say, well, they're smarter than me. They got more money than me. They're more educated. They must know.
Well, I mean, I try my best to listen to a few news sources and a variety of news sources, and then I try to make up my own mind.
Do you remember when they said cigarette smoking was good for you? Do you remember that?
Follow the money.
And everybody went to sugar.
Well, I mean, the same thing I'm talking about with fat. I mean, when it goes all the way to when President Eisenhower had a heart attack, and they blamed it on his diet.
And then they took off from there.
He was smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day. They didn't mention cigarettes, to your point. They talked about it.
Right.
And
the fact that he might not have exercised.
Right. And so
when I went to the doctor last time, he said, we're going to do your blood work. I said, well, don't do my cholesterol. Because what's that going to tell me? I eat spaghetti and I feel better when I eat spaghetti.
Well, I've had high cholesterol all of my life, but I've never taken medication because my bad cholesterol's high, but my good cholesterol's high.
Now, see, that in itself has got to be, how true can it be that one's good and one's bad? I mean, how are you 70 yet?
Yes.
All right, and you're as thin as I am.
Well, I wasn't, but I am. Yeah, I'm back to my normal weight. I was putting a roof on a shed on the farm by myself about 3 years ago. And
you got a couple of fingers left, so
and I missed the ladder and fell off, and I busted my hip.
Farmers are a lot smarter than that.
Oh Lord,
Did you break the hip? God.
Crushed the ball because I hit directly on my left hip.
Did you hear it?
I don't know that I heard it, but I sure felt it. I couldn't stand up. Anyway, I had it fixed, and the fix didn't work. I had it refixed, and that worked. And so 2 years of not as much activity, if you will, I had gained, back in March, I weighed 45 pounds more than I do today.
But you're tall.
It doesn't matter.
How tall are you?
6'2". But I went to my doctor, regular checkup. I said, I've gained weight. I got to lose it. What can I do? He said, I got some drugs. I don't want drugs. He said, well, start counting calories. So I got this app called Lose It, and it's more of an education. I don't know that I really knew what foods had a lot of calories and what have you. And so I'm just watching what I eat, and I eat more vegetables, and I haven't dieted. I eat 3 meals a day and have some snacks and have ice cream about 5 nights a week. But I've lost 40 pounds in the last, or 45 pounds in the last 6-7 months.
What would you say you cut out the most of?
Cheese. I used to eat a lot of cheese, and I did not realize, I knew it had some fat in it, but I didn't, these little cubes of cheese?
Oh, yeah, I love them.
Yeah, well, I go to a party at a reception, and by the time it's over, I've had 30 of them. Well, every one of those is 25 calories.
But it's got fat and protein and no carbs, right? Isn't that what cheese is? It's like empty carbs.
Anyway, I've cut back on cheese. I used to not eat breakfast. Now I'm eating the oatmeal we were talking about.
Yeah. I think oatmeal really helps level out the blood spikes, I think.
My typical lunch these days is extra crunchy peanut butter and jelly.
Well, I had that the other night.
And a milk.
I always have to have a little Coke with mine. Do you drink Cokes?
No, I love them, but I don't drink them. I just I probably cut back on that.
I drink the little 10 ounce.
But I never have drunk much Coke. I like milk, and we drink milk and orange juice, some chocolate milk.
You ever eat pizza?
But I try to not eat all the crust.
Now, do you do any exercising?
I go to a class on the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at the Y.
Where is the Y in Athens?
Oh, it's up above City Hall.
Oh, yeah, as you're going out.
If you're coming into
Highway
town,
30?
Yeah, if you're coming in on Highway 30 and you could go down toward White Street Market, if you turn left at that light, and it's up on the hill right up there.
Close to traffic court.
Yeah, behind there.
Yeah.
It's and I've been going. I had a low back issue 15 years ago, and the doctor said all you can do is build up your muscles, and so I've been going to a total body fitness kind of thing, and instructors have changed, and now I'm in a class, and the instructor, she's an assistant principal at Mountain View, and she does what they call body pump. So we have barbell and a step up, and by the time you're done, she's worked just about every muscle in your body.
You got good posture, I noticed, when you walked in.
Well, okay.
What time do you go in the morning?
6.
6, golly.
Well, heck, I get there at 6, and there's a class that's just finished, and it's been there since 5.
Good grief.
I can't do that. But anyway, she's really good. And
Was it like an hour?
Depending on her school situation, it's usually 45 minutes because she's got to shower and get to Mountain View. But if she can get there late, she'll do it for an hour.
How many's in the class?
Probably 12, 15. And what's crazy, my old class, she's the newer instructor. My old instructor, different story, but she left. And so this lady comes. And of course, she's doing what she does. None of my old classmates stayed, and she brought with her and it's me and about 12 other people, and they're all females, and I'm the only guy in there. And so I just get up in the front and stay out of everybody's way and behave myself.
That's fun, isn't it, when you're involved with a group that's every day? It's almost, the routine is almost the biggest part of it, isn't it?
Well, and I've gotten to where there's not a lot of social going on. I mean, it's 6 o'clock in the morning, you're just barely awake.
No, but the idea of somebody else, if you just had to do it by yourself, you'd have done quick.
I'm not as good. I have to have somebody tell me what to do. It just helps me do whatever it is.
And it seems to be some accountability to be there on time.
Right, yeah. I'm going to miss tomorrow morning because I'm going to be taking Sebastian to school, but I'll be there Wednesday and Friday.
Sebastian, that's an unusual name for a kid nowadays, isn't it?
My wife's father's name was Arthur Sebastian.
What's Sebastian? What's short for Sebastian?
Oh, I don't know. We call him Sebastian. I don't know. I mean, my wife's maiden name was Gonzalez, and her grandfather was born in Spain, and so that's...
Sebastian was the name of the butler on Family Affair. Remember that guy named Sebastian?
Right, that's right.
Because that was an English name, I believe.
Yeah, it's probably as much British as it is Spanish. But anyway, he's a good kid.
Boy, isn't it funny how you associate names with people over times? That's odd, isn't it?
Well,
always think about
I
stuff
have a
like
hard
that.
time remembering people's names, and I'll books and everything. I can't remember the author. I can remember the title of the book sometimes.
What was the name of that whole body that you were talking about? I'm gonna get that book, that 24-hour thing. What was that you said?
It's the body.
The body.
Yeah.
And so is it a series of YouTube things or what?
No, it's just one.
You know, if you find somebody that's passionate about a subject, they will study it and be know more about it than somebody that's educated on it.
I'm telling you,
I believe there's more to our bodies than we realize.
well, this book, it's got more information than you can imagine. Oh, I misspelled it. Okay, The Body by Bill Bryson.
Bill Bryson. Body by Bill Bryson. 3 B's.
And it's 14 hours. I think that's it. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's right. But anyway, it was very interesting.
Are the Mayfields related to the Mayfields here? Like
Yes, my understanding, now I'm not a great historian, but I believe that 2 brothers came from South Carolina in 1820, and one settled in McMinn County and one settled in Bradley County.
now we had there was a lawyer here, Mayfield,
Right.
and he was married to Bess Neal,
Right?
and he got shot downtown
Oh my,
by Attorney Bell.
that's not good.
No, it's not good, but that's where
That was a long time ago.
a
Wasn't
long time ago. But that's what happened to I remember that story.
John Mayfield, I remember, he's maybe a year or 2 younger than I am. I don't know if he lives here anymore, but I remember him from high school. He went to Baylor, and when I was at Baylor, and but that's
You
my
mentioned
history.
church a lot. You attend regular?
I try to, I do. I mean, I used to be. I'm not anymore. I used to be a lay speaker for Methodist Church. You had to go to training, get certified. I'll never forget. I figured I'd never get invited back, and I was keeping track of where I'd been by the minister, and that's a mistake in the Methodist Church because they move ministers around, and I was going to Benton, and I got there, and I thought, man, I believe I've been here before. And I walked inside, and this cute little lady old lady, oh, we're so glad to have you back. I so enjoyed your sermon on forgiveness. And I said, well, that's good because you're going to hear it again. And then it was really funny because when it was over, she came up to me and she said, Sonny, you're getting better at this. But anyway, I have, I think, a fairly strong faith. And
Do you think that just goes with Southeast Tennessee, Bible Belt? I guess it's more
I
prominent.
don't know. I mean, I know people from other places that have it. I mean, I think you're lucky if you got it.
Yeah, I've gone to church my whole life.
I mean, I was reading about, this was in the West Wing, that book I'm talking about, Faith in the West Wing, and he quotes this guy, Dave Graybill is the author of this. He's a minister now at Signal Mountain. But this guy was an atheist, and he was a medical doctor. And over time, he realized that the patients that he had that had faith and that were in a bad situation, were dying, were very much more at ease. And so he started trying to read up and study about it a little bit, and he became a Christian. And I just,
I'd hate to think there wasn't nothing after this, wouldn't you?
yeah, but at the same time, if you try to behave the way Jesus wants you to behave, this life here's pretty much easier.
Yeah.
It's better.
But I would hate to think this was it.
Well, I don't think this is it, but this ain't bad.
No.
I mean,
I'm having fun, aren't you?
yeah.
Do you foresee, do you ever, now that you're retired, do you ever have thoughts of, hey, I'm going to do this or do that, or, like proactive thoughts, or are they sort of in the more, I mean, you can't, I mean, would you think about, I guess what I'm saying is, now that you're retired, you're not going to open up a dairy milking business. I mean, you may have a woodworking project, but you're not going to.
3 years ago, my wife decided that she's going to open up a store, and I did most of the work to fix her store up. And I mean, we're pretty active in the White Street Market, doing that. And And I mean, I'm active in the Kiwanis Club in Athens. We do a lot of things. I don't know what they're gonna do when I die because I cook the barbecue. We have a barbecue, which is one of our 3 fundraisers, and we cook 2,000 pounds of Boston
Golly.
butts at one time, and that's a pretty big project. And
That's as heavy as a bobcat.
it's a lot of meat. I got 3 cookers, but I got 2 big cookers, and we cook it all. But I mean, my wife is involved in this White Street Market, which is really great. I'm kind of their maintenance man, so whenever anything happens, I help fix that. I've helped my son. He's kind of gotten to where, especially when I hurt my hip, he's kind of not wanting me to get out there and get hurt again, I guess.
Yeah.
But early on when he was starting up, I mean, I used to drive the tractor for the hay rides, and I used to help him a good bit. And I mean, there's plenty to do.
Do you have any horses, or do you have any cows on your farm now, or is it
I'm not
just
a horse
fish?
guy. No, we don't have any cows, and he doesn't. When he has his corn maze and pumpkin patch, he actually rents, if you will, from a lady some sheep. They're just easier to deal with, and it was really cool. She came over one day and had some of the dogs.
Sheep shearing. That's what it needs to have, some sheep shearing.
Well, that would be interesting to do, but she herded them around, and she even had some ducks that those dogs would herd around. That was interesting.
You know, that idea you were talking about of people coming that would like to work on a farm, they could come and stay there for a week and give them a list of stuff. So now you got, boy, they would really just enjoy that, wouldn't they?
I think so. I mean, we haven't done that, but I think they would. I mean, it would be a great experience. I mean, you hear about people going to dude ranches out west.
Oh, yeah. I remember on the Mickey Mouse Club, they always went to that ranch.
Right.
I remember they always went. I thought, boy, I'd like to do that.
Yeah.
That was just TV.
My daughter went to school in Montana, in Missoula, and her first-year roommate, his father had a ranch in southern Montana, and we went for he did a dude ranch offering, but you didn't have to stay for a whole week. You could just do a weekend.
Yeah.
And we went and did that. We helped bring some cows in and
Boy, it'd be so
branded
much
some
fun,
calves,
wouldn't
and it was interesting.
My wife went to Montana here a while back. She loved it.
It's pretty.
It's hard to get her back, nearly.
It's really pretty. I mean, it's wide open and spaces, but there's nothing like East Tennessee.
I'm more comfortable here. But let me ask you this. What do you foresee the future? You're going to keep doing what you're doing?
Yeah. I mean, I'll have to admit, the fall I had and busted my hip was a setback. And it has taken me until probably July or August of this year to feel like that I'm back to where I was before I fell.
Well, this exercising class will help you get back there.
Oh yeah. But I feel really good, and so I mean I'm gonna stay active. I got some sawmilling I got to do, and I just got things I got to get done.
It really helps to have something you got to get done, doesn't it?
Yeah. I like having things that, I mean, I'm going to be doing something. If I don't have something I need to make, I'll make some birdhouses, or I'm going to be doing something. I don't. People tell me, well, I hate to call you because you're so busy. And I said, well, you want me to just sit on the front porch and wait for you? I don't want to do that. I don't mind setting down the things that I had planned that can wait forever. I mean, I don't have to do those things to do something for somebody or for the church or for my wife or a friend or whatever.
That's why you retired, so you could do that, I guess, right?
I guess. I mean, I'm busier now than I was when I was working, I think.
Have you ever read that poem, The Busy Man?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it was Calvin Coolidge. It says, if you want to get something done, get the busy man, because he'll find a place or a minute to fill.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's a lot of people that, I mean, if you're busy, you just seem to be more satisfied or fulfilled or something. I mean,
A tired body sleeps well.
yeah, that's unless you get too tired, and sometimes it's hard to get to sleep if you're aching. But I don't have that problem. I mean,
You ever drink it? You wonder why people used to drink a glass of warm milk before they went to bed. They'd say, "Oh, I can't sleep." Well, have your glass of warm
well,
milk.
I'll tell you, if I wake up in the middle of the night and I feel like I can't go back to sleep, I go and drink a glass of milk.
Hey, we've got a common friend I hadn't thought about. I just now thought about that, Eddie Cartwright.
Oh yeah,
Me and him's really good friends.
I know him, bro.
He speaks real highly of you.
Yeah, he was he helped me when I was trying to, I guess, make a mistake when I ran for Congress.
Well, you almost won, didn't you?
Won every county but Hamilton County, and my consultant had not let me do anything in Hamilton County, or I'd have won it. So
The old guy that grew up on the farm would have gone to Hamilton County if it's just up to him, right?
well, I mean, anyway. That's water under the dam, and I'm really kind of glad I didn't get elected because I don't think I would like that. I don't think they do much work. I think they just talk
No,
about
and
stuff.
it would probably
Be
one of those
frustrating.
things that would be frustrating.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and you'd almost be seeing how the sausage was made, and it probably
Well,
make
the
you
one
mad.
thing, and I talked to Chuck about this, and he said he was going to do it, and I don't think he really has. I feel like that if you are a veteran, you should have a card that allows you to go to any doctor. You should not have to drive to a veterans
in Nashville or
facility,
wherever.
Nashville or
Yeah.
wherever. You ought to be able to go wherever. I mean, whether it's Medicare, Medicaid, I don't care what you want to call it. And even if they have to pay a little or whatever, I mean, I have to pay for my insurance now, and if you have a job, your company usually pays for some of it or whatever. And it's a copay kind of deal, insurance-wise. But I just feel like veterans ought to be able to go to their local doctor when they have an issue and be treated. But anyway, that was the one thing I had hoped to accomplish, but I didn't get to do that.
What is that Farm Bureau farmer? What's that guy's name on the Farm Bureau? They always had that guy with the red hat.
Oh, I don't know his name.
What's
but I know
his
the
name,
commercial.
Gwen? You remember? They have hats. Ask. Can't think of his name. Man, it'll come to me. But I hope you enjoy that book. I think you
I
will.
will. I will. Thank
I
you
feel
for
like it's just one of your things. Now, when you listen to the Libby Library, do you levitate towards certain stories, or do you like the more informative stuff?
Well, I'm bad. I right now I'm on Tom Clancy's, so I'm listening to it's just junk, okay? But I'll do a couple of those, and
Maybe it's junk.
yeah, and then I'll try to do a biography, or I'll do a little. I'll think, I need to do something that's nonfiction, that's the truth,
Yeah.
or at least somebody's trying to tell the truth about something. And biographies are great.
I like
I mean,
biographies.
biographies of Alexander Hamilton, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, they're a history lesson in and of themselves. And so I listen to those. I've listened, I couldn't hardly, I've listened to some commentaries on the Bible. I listened to one that was the history of the Bible.
Those sometimes confuse me. I'd rather just stay with the Bible. And I feel like maybe if it was in there.
The history of the Bible and the history of Christianity is kind of interesting because, or at least the what I heard, the one I read or listened to, I mean, things change over time. I mean, Turkey in 1914, I think it was, before the World War I was over, or going into that period, Turkey was 60% Christian. Today it's maybe 5%, because the Muslims have come in there, and what they've done is they've made religion a part of the government. And once those two things come together, then if you're not in the government sanctioned religion, you got a problem.
That's why.
And
That's
so-
why we have to keep it separate.
I agree.
In my opinion,
I agree 100%.
I agree with it to the extent. I'm pretty
That's serious.
serious about that.
And so anyway, I think listening to some nonfiction occasionally, about one out of every 3 or 4.
Yeah, I don't like a whole lot of nonfiction unless it's because it's just somebody's point of view or something. But at
that's
least
true.
if I'm reading a biography, I know it's how they were thinking.
Right.
It may not be what happened, but it's what they was thinking was happening. That's good too.
Right.
Hey, I've really enjoyed it. I've
Well,
enjoyed
thanks.
this as much as anything.